Hey everybody, it's Rod with the Photo Fair coming back at you with another video. Today, I want to talk about a little versatility in portrait lenses. A little bit different angle. If you asked me, hey Rod, I'm going to set up a portrait studio. It's going to be a full frame setup. I only want one lens. For this portrait studio, I want a really good one. I would tell you, get an 85. An 85 1.2, an 85 1.4, and if the budget limits you to 1.8 or f2, do that. That would be my recommendation for portraits, one lens only, in full frame. But what if you needed a little more versatility than just portrait studio work? Well, that kind of changes things a little bit. All of a sudden, this guy starts to look good, as does its counterparts from Sony and Nikon. Let's talk about it. Guys, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, would you? It really helps us out. I'd appreciate it much. Okay, so what is this? This is a 135 f2. Now, this is the old EF lens. I've had this thing forever, a long, long time. This lens is, I don't know, I think I bought this lens 20 years ago. And the lens came out from Canon in the 90s. It was originally a film lens. Canon never updated this lens in the EF. There was no Mark I, Mark II. It was just, this lens was that good right out of the box. And it holds up even today in the digital era. Now, I'm not going to make this all about Canon. I happen to shoot Canon, so I have Canon lenses. I shoot the R5, and I can actually get an RF 135 f1.8, which is better than this lens. If you shoot Sony, you can get the 135 f1.8 G Master, great lens. If you shoot Nikon, they've got a fast 135. They've got several. You can even get manual focus stuff with Canon and Nikon that go back to the 80s, and they're all great. 135 f2 or faster is an amazing and versatile lens. I wouldn't want that as my only portrait option. Again, if I were doing a portrait studio, I like 85 a little better. The working distance with a 135 for a full-length shot, you better have a really big studio. The nice thing about that working distance, though, is if you're doing headshots, it's a little more comfortable between you and your subject. With an 85, for a headshot, you're up in there pretty close. The 135 gives you that working distance. So I think you should have both a 135 and an 85 in a portrait studio setup. But why would I pick the 135 over the 85? Versatility. So what do I mean by versatility? Well, there's a lot of things I like to do. I like to shoot wildlife. I like to shoot street photography. I like to shoot astrophotography. Well, a 135 with a fast aperture like f2 or better can offer you a lot of amazing opportunities for all of those other areas outside of traditional portraiture, particularly astrophotography. An 85 1.2 might seem like a great astrophotography lens, right? 1.2, you're going to let a lot of light in. You're going to have shorter exposures. The problem is that's a really, really ultra-wide field in astronomy. And so you're going to be real limited on what you can actually get as far as astronomical objects. It's all wide field. But a 135, even on a full frame camera, it narrows that field down a little bit. And if you put that 135 on an APS-C camera, it shoots like a 200. And now you get brilliant images of things like the Andromeda Galaxy or the Orion Nebula. The 135 is just super versatile. You can also, if you've got a full frame camera with a lot of megapixels, like my Canon R5, which has 45 megapixels, Nikon Z7 series, Z8 and Z9, those are 45 megapixels. And of course, Sony, if you've got the R version, like the Sony A7R5 or A7R4, you're getting 61 megapixels. Why does that matter? Well, I can shoot wildlife with a 135 f2, and I can crop away half of the image, and it's going to feel like I was shooting a 230 or a 240 millimeter lens, by cropping down. So you can do a lot. The 135 is still a versatile focal length. It's kind of the jack of all trades and the master of none. But in general, it's almost always a little bit of a compromise. But it's so broad in the range of things that it can do. Okay, I got to interrupt the video for a minute. There's an elephant in the room, and it's the new 50 to 150 zoom lens f2 from Sony. I've been talking about these prime lenses because they're faster than zooms at f2, but Sony kind of just threw a wild one at us with this lens. Now, you have to have some deep pockets for it. They're getting $3,900 for it, but it's a 50 to 150 f2. So that's an awesome lens, and if that's in your budget, that solves a lot of problems. It's a jack of all trades and master of all. So keep that in mind. If you're somebody that wants to get a prime lens with a fast aperture, but you want to be able to use that prime lens across a wide variety of things like astrophotography, portraits, and even wildlife. No, you're not going to reach out and get a hummingbird at 1,000 yards with a 135. Of course not. But you can get a lot of interesting wildlife shots, even bird shots with a 135 and some creative cropping. Or use it on an APS-C camera or even a micro four thirds camera if you happen to have one of those. 135 can become a really versatile lens. I also find that every 135 f2 or faster that I have ever handled and shot, and I've shot the Sigma has I think a 1.8. I've shot that lens. Sony's G Master 1.8. I've shot that lens. I've shot Canon's RF 1.8. I borrowed one of those, took some shots with that. I have the Canon 135 f2L EF lens. I've shot the Nikkor old manual focus 135 f2 and the Canon 135 f2 FD version from the manual focus days. Every one of those lenses gave me beautiful images, lovely out of focus background. All of them were great lenses. The modern ones are, they're sharper and, you got autofocus and all that stuff. So, I'm not going to lie, I do like shooting with the autofocus, especially with today's cameras, for people, it locks on the eye. And Sony and Nikon and Canon are all getting in on these animal eye detect, and it's a lot easier. I'm getting older, so shooting the old manual lenses, is not as fun as it used to be. But even this old lens, I think they introduced this lens in 1996. It was the current high-speed 135 for Canon for almost 30 years. They didn't come out with the replacement for this until just a couple years ago. And that's how good this old 135 f2 was. A number of lenses that came out from competing brands were a little better, but this lens was good enough that Canon didn't feel the need to do a Mark II version until they came out with the RF mount, and they now have the 135 f1.8L. So whichever you shoot, Nikon, Canon, Sony, get a high-speed 135 if you're looking for versatility in a telephoto lens. There's a lot of things you can do with that focal length. It's not going to do anything the very, very best, but it'll do a lot of things extremely well. And that could be a way for you to get something that's a budget prime. I point out that I still have that EF 135 f2 because it is an excellent lens, and you can buy those lenses on the used market now for $500, $600, $700, maybe even less if it's a little banged up. Canon still offers parts for that, so it's still a serviceable lens. And to buy the new RF 135 f1.8, that's over $2,000 or pretty close to $2,000. And I think that's the case with Sony's G Master 135 1.8 as well. If you don't have that kind of budget, but you want to get something similar, an old EF 135 f2 could be your ticket. Those can be adapted to work on Sony cameras. I don't think they can be adapted to work on Nikon mirrorless cameras. You definitely can't use them on Nikon DSLRs. That's a no-go. But they might be able to work on a Z camera. You'd have to look into that. 135, if you want some versatility, you want to do some beautiful portraits, with that tight face and bokeh for days, 135 f2 will get it done, or a 1.8. If you want to do some night sky photography where you're going to get some details on some objects like the Andromeda Galaxy or the Orion Nebula, 135 f2 is brilliant for that. And you can even do some wildlife photography using it on a crop sensor camera or with some creative cropping on your high megapixel full frame camera. Great, versatile jack of all trades. The 135 f2 or the 135 1.8. Great option. Guess what? We got a photo fair coming up in just a couple of weeks. It's our little show in the parking lot of Seawood Photo in San Rafael, California. Somebody's going to have a high-speed 135 for sale there. There'll probably be more than one. And you could also go into the Seawood store and check out their massive inventory of used gear as well and pick one of these up. Maybe go for manual focus. If you're more interested in the astrophotography side of things, the manual focus lenses kind of have an advantage because it's much easier to get precision manual focus with a manual focus lens than it is with an AF lens in manual mode. So, maybe you do that. Whatever your cup of tea is, you got a good shot at finding a great deal at the next photo fair. And guys, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, would you? It really helps us out. I'd appreciate it much. I look forward to seeing you at the next photo fair and right here on YouTube for the next video.